There's a few things that a lot of flat earthers keep on saying that is so dumb it seems like they're actively trying to discredit themselves. One of those things is the whole idea that the moon gives off its own light, which I took these pictures myself, and all you have to do is look at the moon and you can see that there are shadows being cast from somewhere else. I'm not even going to speculate what the light source may be, but it's obvious that it is not the moon. The light is coming from somewhere else, full stop. That's all there is to it. The moon is a sphere, and the light is coming from somewhere else. All you have to do for proof of that is look at the moon. But somehow flat earthers keep on insisting that the moon gives off its own light, and somehow it has magic cooling light, even though there is no evidence of any such light ever existing anywhere. The other dumb thing that they love to insist, because it simply goes against what they choose to believe, they insist that gravity isn't real. They insist that buoyancy and density explains why things can float. The idea is simply that if something is more dense than the air around it, it will fall, and if it is less dense than the air around it, it will float. The very obvious problem with this idea is that if buoyancy and density explain why things either float or fall, that doesn't explain why things go down. If it's a matter of density, then the fact that an object is more dense than the air around it, and that's why it falls, everything should be falling up. As you go higher up, the air gets thinner, it is less dense, so the object you drop would actually be in less and less dense air if it went up rather than down. But heavy things don't fall up, and we all know that. So what I'm saying here is ridiculous. Buoyancy and density can explain some things, but it fails to explain why things fall down. I propose that flat earthers should just stop denying that gravity is a thing. I don't care how much you want to argue about the finer points of gravity, but something other than buoyancy and density is causing things to fall. Can't we just all agree that the thing that makes things fall down is gravity? We don't have to go further than that. You just have to accept that something else is making things fall. Let's call it gravity. Now, if you don't want to call the thing that makes things fall gravity because you're afraid that it will hurt your position, then you're going to have to come up with another explanation. Buoyancy and density doesn't cut it. You would have to have things falling up if that was the case. Now, before someone accuses me of believing that the air is thinner simply because a scientist in a lab coat told me that, I know for a fact the air gets thinner as you go to higher altitudes, because when I take a motorcycle up to high altitudes from sea level, I have to adjust the jetting on it so that it isn't running too rich. As you go higher, there's less air, the fuel to air mixture in a motorcycle changes, and you end up with too much fuel and not enough air if you don't change your jetting. So you have to change the jetting and make it leaner so that it matches the air volume that you're getting and the oxygen levels at higher altitudes. So I have firsthand experience that the air is thinner. I'm not pulling it out of my ass, and I'm not just believing someone because they are an authority figure. I know for a fact the air gets thinner, so if it's density and buoyancy that is causing things to move when you let go of them, then obviously things would go up into the thinner air because it is much, much more dense than the air at higher altitudes than it is in the air at sea level. Well, I can sort of understand the need to deny gravity and try to explain it away, and simply choosing to ignore the fact that density and buoyancy cannot actually explain why things fall down. It seems like the moon denial is actually an active attempt to show that they're not really serious about the claims that they make. I really do think that a lot of the things that flat earthers say are things that someone who was just trolling initially said, and then a bunch of people who claim that they don't believe anything without evidence and need more proof to prove anything. It really does seem like a lot of the things that flat earthers say was started by someone who was just trolling, and they wanted to see how dumb a statement had to be before people wouldn't just blindly believe it and repeat it. For a group of people who claim that they need evidence, it's shocking how often they will believe things that go absolutely contrary to the evidence that they can just collect on their own.